Now it should be volume. Click, click. Should have probably done this before, but you know, there we go. Volume. Volume. There we go. Okay, this is going to talk a little bit about the pivot. I think that I've talked a lot about this in a lot of my lessons. I think this is going to be a good video to be able to support some of the stuff I've talked about. So we've heard a lot about how we use our pivot. We've heard a lot about how we're supposed to, you know, fire our hips. We're supposed to have separation between our hips and our upper body. We're supposed to maintain our incline to the ground without early extending or whatever all these things are. And I think that a lot of the stuff can be discussed or thought of and create a movement pattern around an inside-out approach. I mean, when I look at the golf swing, I really think that the inside controls the outside, right? How I move my chest is going to control how I move the club, but how I move the middle of me controls the outsides of me. And I think that, you know, my philosophies on the golf swing kind of build on how we use our middle to control other things. So I'm going to go into a little bit on how we're going to use our body and how we're going to kind of bend our spine. And I've got a stick here so I can bend, and I'm going to talk about the 3 different ways we can create a C in our posture right here. So what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to get to with this is to understand that in the backswing, let's get a good view here. How about that right there? There we go. Okay. So in the backswing, as I make my backswing this way, I create a little bit of a C in this direction, bending that way, right? We can see that when I get to the top of this motion, I've created a little bit of a letter C through here. From the shoulder, down through the hip, down to the knee, there's a bit of a letter C. The hip's the furthest back, the elbow, the shoulder's down, right? It's all about trying to find that letter, and that's a little bit of a lean over to my left to do it. So there's the first C right here. And if we do the next 2 C's that I'm going to talk about, which are kind of the whole piece of the puzzle, we're going to end up back into that C on this side of things, which we've called maintaining our incline or maintaining our side bends through the shot. All that stuff's there, and I'm going to talk about how we can bend our spine from the bottom of the spine to the top of the spine, the middle of the spine, to create these looks that we keep searching for, but also to create some speed. So when I get to the top of my swing, you know, back swing, somewhere close to the end of my backswing, I've created this C with the mouth down toward the golf ball. Okay, mouth toward the golf ball, just down like that. When I've created that from there, the next move is trying to feel like my lower back, my lower spine is bending to create another C. And that other C, or 2 of them, we're going to blend the 2, is going to be getting my spine to feel like it's this way, right? So I'm staring at the mouth of the C. It's the back side of it's down toward the golf ball, upper's bending, lower's bending. I'm trying to get my spine to do that. So right here, you could probably put my beer on here, like I feel like a Kardashian, and then my upper body here is bent forward up like this. I feel like one of their sisters, right? So it's like trying to find a way to get that type of a bend. That's the first C. The next C is a side bend. It's this type of a bend, trying to get my back to go that way. So in order to get that type of a bend, my lower tailbone has to bend back that way. My upper back has to bend back that way. And I feel like the middle of that, I've referenced it before, a little bit on my lead side, has to bend forward that way. And I think that when we blend those 2, the one where it's this way, where I can like catch rain on my back, and the one that's bent toward the target, when we can blend those 2 together, we get the look of the shoulder move, we get the look of hip turn and separation, and we get all of that stuff we've been trying to find. So the way that I want to describe this is in terms of almost like a pattern. You can start to see it in golfers. So if I went to the top of my swing like this and found just the arching back this way, catching rain, right? And I went like that, that starts to make me look a little bit, I do that first, and then I find the other one second, I start to look a little bit like Sergio. If I go to the top of my swing and I don't find that first one first, I find the C this way first, Then from there, I find the one that arches me back. I look a little different. I look a little bit like Rory. So trying to find a way to bend in those two C's, this way relative to the target line, that way relative to the target line, trying to feel as though that it's the tailbone arching out to hold your beer, then arching back, feeling like it's pointed down there, keeps the hips down, keeps the second C this way being created. We get some shoulder tilt, but some nice things, and I've got two different color sleeves for this, is that when I go from the top of my swing and I start working down, whichever C feels comfortable with first, in order to create those, I'm digging into the ground hard. I haven't really changed my arm structure from the top, so you can see that I've got the white sleeve is lower than the red one for longer. This is going to let me kind of stand up and finish the rest of my motion. And if I've created one, and I've created the other, and I use my legs to jump almost out of the way, I jump myself into, like I said, that final one that we started in. So trying to find a way to manipulate that, to get to the top of your swing and feel like it's, I don't know, is it your ribs going first and then it's your rump sticking out, and then from there are you going to jump? Or are you going to go from the top of your swing and feel like you arch your back to hold your beer and put the rump first, then give it the rib, then give it the jump? One of those things is going to, or one of those sequences is going to give you a feeling of how to take the arms and club from the top through the ball and maintain a little bit more of that inside out structure. Like if I can move my spine around, I get all the things to move that are connected to my spine. But, you know, if I use an analogy of, you know, the merry-go-round, too many people are trying to put a 3D system on one of the horses when the horses don't actually run. We're trying to find a way to manipulate the center of it, which turns it. How do we manipulate our spine to try and find these two C's in order to jump ourselves into the third one? And all of a sudden we start to move a little differently. We start to get athletic. You'll start to feel like your feet dig into the ground. So when we hear about the swing being from the ground up, if you can control your middle really well, your tailbone and your spine, in order to do that, you're going to have to dig into the ground really well as well. And it's almost it's a reaction of you trying to move your spine. Your feet will react to that rather than trying to feel like you can do stuff with your feet. Move your spine, manipulate it, try to get the feeling that the C's happen in your spine and you're manipulating things all the way into the jump. Practice some shots and I bet that's going to help you out.